Should be good.
Excellent, great, thank you. Good evening and welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Solvang City Council for Monday, October 10th, 2022. I now call the meeting to order at 6:43. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Councilmember Clark.
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Infante.
Here.
Councilmember Rona.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Gehrig.
Here. Councilmember Thomas, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand, pledge your hand over your heart, repeat with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Moving on to proclamations, I have a couple of them. And the first one I'll start off with is Childhood Cancer Awareness Week. Is there anyone here that from Cancer Society that would be receiving this? On Zoom. All right, thank you. So moving forward, whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children reports that each school day, 46 children in the U.S. are diagnosed with pediatric or childhood cancer, a tragic disease that impacts the lives of approximately 15,780 children and their families and friends who love them. And whereas 1 in 5 children in our country will tragically lose their battle with cancer. And whereas childhood cancer is the leading cause of death from disease and the second overall leading cause of death for children in the U.S. And whereas studies have shown that 95% of survivors of childhood cancer have chronic health problems and 80% will have severe or life-threatening conditions due to the complications from cancer-related medical treatment by the time they are 45. And whereas the cause of most childhood cancers are unknown, while genetic and environmental factors contribute, it is difficult to determine cause, making research to develop effective prevention and treatments crucial. And whereas community awareness and financial support are essential for families that are affected by childhood cancer, as out-of-pocket medical costs typically exceed $10,000 annually for treatment and also require frequent hospital stays and extended parental absences from work to care for a sick child, and also has a significant emotional toll on children and families. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Charlie Uhrig, along with the City Council of the City of Solvang, do hereby proclaim October 30th through November 5, 2022 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Week in the City of Solvang. And I have signed that. And who's here to?
I'm Dr. Amy Firestein, and I'm with Kids Cancer Connection.
Excellent. Would you like to say a few words about it?
I would, thank you. So I'd first like to thank the City of Solvang, Mayor Uhrig, Mayor Pro Tem Infante, and the council members for supporting Childhood Cancer Awareness Week. Children with cancer need a lot of support via their families, medically, and from the community. Raising awareness about childhood cancer is a large part of this, and that's what we're doing here today. These children are brave, strong, and determined, as are their families and loved ones, and they have to be to face this battle. So through our work at Kids Cancer Connection, American Cancer Fund for Children, and in association with the support of government, we're able to further assist these amazing children and their families. So again, thank you for honoring these children and offering your support in the battle against childhood cancer. And we can only hope that one day we will no longer need to issue this type of proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Next, we have proclamation for the Hispanic Heritage Month, which started September 15th through October 15th of this year. Whereas Hispanic heritage holds an indelible place in the heart and soul of our nation, and National Hispanic Heritage Month reminds us that the American identity is a fabric of diverse traditions and stories woven together. Since the beginning, our country has drawn strength and insights from Hispanic writers, scientists, soldiers, doctors, entrepreneurs, academics, and leaders in labor and government. And whereas our culture has been enriched by the rhythms, art, literature, and creativity of Hispanic peoples, and our deepest values have been informed by the love of family and faith that is at the core of so many Hispanic communities. All of these contributions help us realize the promise of America for all Americans. And whereas during National Hispanic Heritage Month, We reaffirmed that diversity is one of our country's greatest strengths. We also acknowledged the Hispanic leaders who have stayed in the struggle for equal justice to ensure that everyone in this nation can contribute their talents and have the opportunity to thrive. And whereas this month, we carry on the important work of honoring Hispanic heritage, let us give thanks to the many generations of Hispanic leaders who have helped build this country and continue to fight for equality and justice. Let us pledge to invest in the next generation of Hispanic men and women who hold the destiny of our nation in their hands. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Charlie Uhrig, along with the City Council of the City of Solvang, do hereby proclaim September 15 through October 14, 2022 as Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Solvang. And I call upon all Americans to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs that celebrate Hispanic heritage and recognize the impact Hispanic peoples have had on our nation. Hope some of you enjoyed the Friday People Helping People sponsored event at Solvang Park. Is there someone here? Erica? Oh, a few. Oh. I get in the middle.
Get it all.
Thank you, City Council and City of Solvang, especially on this Indigenous Peoples' Day, to be honored with this proclamation. And we are just so impressed with the Solvang's leadership, that they are embracing diversity in our community. I was fortunate to be here in June when you did the Juneteenth proclamation and the Pride proclamation. And so we are just so proud of the city and how it's been able to embrace the diverse populations that live here.
Mi nombre es Hilda Navarro, soy de aquí de Solvang. Muchísimas gracias por el apoyo a People Helping People. Mi comunidad hispana está muy agradecida con Solvang por tener este apoyo a People Helping People y continuar con este evento que realmente nos sorprende que nos hayan acogido, que estemos aquí apoyándolos y ustedes a nosotros y nosotros a ustedes. Muchísimas gracias a Solvang, la ciudad de Solvang. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ada Degollado, and I'm a senior at San Inez High School. I'm so beyond honored to have been asked to receive this award on behalf of my aunt, Adriana Reyes, and People Helping People. I was able to see firsthand the thought and effort that was put into the Hispanic Heritage Celebration, and it makes me so proud to be part of such a beautifully executed event. I could not be more privileged to have a tia like Adriana Reyes and see the impact and changes she's been able to inflict in our little valley. This proclamation is welcomed with open arms by the generations of Hispanic immigrants who left their home country in search for a better life and landed in the San Inez Valley. The same immigrants that helped build our valley into what it is today. Si se pudo. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Adira Guerrero, and I'm going to begin by saying I'm beyond grateful to have received this proclamation on behalf of Adriana Reyes. I've known her for almost 2 years, and I know that she is a strong and committed person. I have had the privilege to experience that beautiful festival in town, and I am grateful that Adriana had contacted me for it. Adriana had helped me, Adriana and Helping People worked so hard to make that day so memorable for so many people. Myself and Ada are happy to have been part of this experience, and for me to share my culture to this community is more than what I can ask for. This community has grown so much and has yet to grow more, and with the help of People Helping People and more, we are to see beautiful and better things to bring everyone together in this town. So this proclamation is just one step closer to make a better impact on our community.
Thank you. Thank you again to People Helping People. for organizing the event on Friday. Moving on to public communications. Madam Clerk, would you just, need to receive the quarterly reports update. Is there a staff report for that?
Quarterly report? Okay. We'll get the PowerPoint up in just a minute. We got a couple slides to share.
Thank you, Valerie. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Susan. We'll get the PowerPoint up. We got a couple slides to share. I'm Roger Rosen with Public Works, and then I'm going to go over the Public Works projects in the quarterly report, and then I'll hand off to my counterpart Jose with Utilities Director, and he'll go over the utilities.
With that, started.
There we go. So this is our quarterly project update. So I wanted to just highlight a couple of projects that that are very active under construction or near construction or nearing bid. So the Second Street Drainage Project has been underway for about a month now. We trenched down Second Street from Copenhagen all the way down to Oak Street. We did a water shutdown to install some valves and teaming up with utilities to do some valve work that they had planned on doing. And we need to do water line lowering. We are planning on shutting a very small section of water line down tomorrow night to complete that work, to do a little water line lowering to allow us to continue the storm drain installation. Once the storm drain is installed, then we will begin the retaining wall work, which is along the west side of Lot 5, which will, part of this project is to grade out Lot 5 and get it ready for the next project, which is the Lot 4, Lot 5 EV charging station and parking lot, which is slated for probably summer of next year. Also, the slurry seal project is recently awarded. We're getting the ink dry on the contracts and getting the bonding. That project is a maintenance project primarily funded with gas tax and Measure A. There is a small portion of general fund going into that as well. The scope includes a roadway slurry seal and a parking lot slurry at a couple city parks. The city park work does have to be general fund, so that's where the general fund money comes in. And then we are anticipating the work might start as early as next week. So we're moving forward with that pretty aggressively, trying to get ahead of the rain. The next project is, yeah, it's going to be a very rainy winter. Yeah. But not for the next 3 weeks, hopefully, so we can get my slurry seal in. Yes, exactly. The sidewalk infill repair project is in design. We focus on the Alice L. Glen neighborhood area. What we did is we took a look at the concrete grinding list, and this was the primary area that had the worst incidence of tree uplift and concrete that needed to be repaired. So we're focusing on this area, and we're looking to, with the budgeted monies that is in this year's budget, we're going to try to take care of this this neighborhood. You can see a couple photos of some of the shots that we've taken of areas that need to be addressed, and this is kind of what we're up against in this neighborhood. It's kind of an older neighborhood, and you know, it has some very mature trees. So with that, you get some up the sidewalk and curb and gutter. So the remainder of the Public Works project list is here, and I'm available to answer any questions before I hand off to Jose on any projects that you might have any questions about. Council?
Is there any questions for Roger right now?
Yeah, just real quickly, you had mentioned parking lot 4 and 5? No.
Yes.
4 and 5, you're going to
Yes.
do the EV stations on?
Yes, that's correct.
I haven't seen the pavement for 5 yet. Is that still in the plan?
That is in the plan, and that is part of the project.
Okay.
It's going to.
So the EV is on after the paving?
Yeah,
so-
we're going to put
That makes
the
sense.
infrastructure in for the electrical for the EV. Then we're going to pave it. We're going to create 6 parking spaces for buses, for the SYVT buses and have charging stations for those for our future electrified bus fleet, and then also for some city vehicles, and there'll be some charging stations there for the city vehicles as well. And then it also includes some EV charging stations in Lot 4. So we'll be installing those as well.
Thank you.
Any questions? I just had one. The trees that are breaking up the concrete and sidewalks.
Yes.
I know you targeted Fjord, but what's gonna happen, the ones right there at Solvang Park on First? Because those are pretty bad.
Yeah. There is one very large oak that I've slated if I want to get this project out for this neighborhood, and then with the remainder of the funds, there's a couple locations along Mission that are paver related, and then also that large oak that's on
First.
that's at Solvang Park. We're going to try to address that as well. It really depends on the numbers that we get back for this bid, for this concrete work, and then we can see if we can find some other monies to bring to the table to address that. Trying to keep the concrete work where it's just Portland cement concrete sidewalk, keep that separate from the paver work. Have someone contractor that specializes in pavers focus on pavers. So that's why we'll focus on that with a separate project.
Okay, thank you. Jose?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, members of the public. My name is Jose Acosta. I'm your utilities director for the city of Solvang. We have several projects.
I got it up here.
Okay, so we have several projects in the works in the utilities. Fredensborg Canyon mainline replacement. This project is imperative because this mainline sits along that creek. As Roger mentioned, we will have some heavy rains this year, and hopefully we don't want to lose that main line because that embankment for many years, when I was digging the trenches 25 years ago, we lost portions of that main line during heavy storms. So now we want to move that out of the creek and into the street area so it's not susceptible to damage, or the service lines for those residents along that road as well. We currently have the RFP completed, and we're awaiting required signatures before we can release that RFP. We're hoping to get the RFP released soon and hopefully award a contract sometime in November. We'll bring back to council for awarding that contract. The valve and hydrant replacement program. This is an ongoing program where we've put aside several $1,000s each year to complete these projects. We go through, we assess the system, and we prioritize which valves or which hydrants need to be replaced. So we can replace with the amount of money that's in there, approximately 3 hydrants and several valves each year. So that's what we're looking to do this year in that program. The water meter radio system upgrade project. This is a project that'll be beneficial for the city staff as well as the residents within the city of Solvang. This project, when completed, will allow citizens to view their water usage from home on a cellular device, a computer at home. And we hope it can be used as a conservation tool, but most importantly as a monitoring tool for themselves as well. And it'll allow for staff to collect data centrally here at City Hall versus having to drive around and read the meters once a month. So it is a great project, and we're looking at hopefully getting that started in fiscal year 23-24. So next fiscal year, we'll start that one. The River Wells project, as the City Council made it known that one of the top priorities of this council and the city is to become water sustainable. We're exploring several options for several wells within the city. A couple of those wells will be down in the river. We're currently in the process of an administrative hearing at the state level, and that's an ongoing process. Based off of the last feedback we had, we're going to try to go through mediation, which would, if we can get through mediation, we may be able to finish up by early next year, but if we don't get through mediation, they'll have to go to a hearing, which could take to the end of next year. Construction of HCA middle well. Here's a little bit of good news. This well, we've done the initial pump testing, and we were sustained at a decent level of water production. I throw out a number of about 250 gallons a minute on that well because that's what we ran it for a 24-hour period. During that time, we monitored the groundwater level and the pumping levels of that well, and they sustained at a regular, normal level. We also monitored the nearby well, which is HCA South well, and there was no direct influence on that well while we're running this one. One of the concerns, obviously, with this well, as was with the HCA South well, was water quality. There's a high pockets of H2S in that area, and throughout the pump test, we did observe those odors of H2S. Sometimes if they're not at high levels, you can oxidize that by the use of injection of chlorine, which we do with our wells. So we're hoping that depending on what those levels come back at, we may be able to oxidize it or seek further treatment processes for this well. The water quality analysis is currently at the lab. We're awaiting those results so we know where we're at. Once we get the water quality results and all the water data, we'll compile a report, bring back to council to report to council where we are with this well. If everything goes well and we see we can, this well is sustainable, then we'll bring back to council to get this project started, get design, engineering, and then hopefully out to bid and construction. The purchase of a mini excavator. The utility department's looking to purchase a mini excavator as currently we have one backhoe which is utilized by 3 departments, water, wastewater, and parks and rec. So the mini excavator will allow primarily the water crews when they're making repairs to get into an area without having to drag the big backhoe out there, use a mini excavator and allow it to be available. The sewer line replacement project. This project was started prior to my arrival, and we're currently at 90% on the drawings and project details for this project. As we're all aware, the wastewater fund is not adequately funded at this time, so this project will sit on the shelf until we can get those funds in that, or get a balance in that fund. We're hoping by sometime next year at this time, we could possibly send this out for bid and start that project as well. The last item for utilities projects is the wastewater treatment plant phases 2 and 3 funding. We're working with our engineering firm, Carollo, to seek grants. We've contacted USDA for some possible grants and funding. We've received from several members of council and the public on possible grants as well. We're researching those as well. Some of those we don't qualify for, but we're gonna see if there's a way that we can get in with some of those grants. Some of those are for nonprofits, but maybe there's some way we can collaborate with a nonprofit. So we are trying to find every method to receive grant funding for this project, or at least a significant portion of the project fund. That concludes the projects that are currently going on with utilities. Do I have any questions?
Any questions? Robert?
This might be silly, but you're looking to purchase a new excavator, Jose?
Yes, sir.
Would it make any sense at all to look at used excavators?
It could have. We've already put out the RFP, received the quotes, and we're looking at finalizing hopefully between 2 excavators right now.
Art?
Yeah. Excuse me. A couple of questions, please. How many wells do we have in HCA now?
HCA, this will be the second well. We only have HCA South. They punched 3 holes in that park. HCA South, HCA North, I believe, and HCA Middle. And we're developing HCA Middle. The other well was shown not to be sustainable.
Are not sustainable. So
The
we
other well.
cannot, well, I was thinking if we did something like we did before, blending the 2 wells so that we could make the water usable without having a lot of problems. And what you're telling me is we can't blend them there because the other 2 are no good?
No, there's 3 wells. One of them's functioning right now, operable, and it's online. The second well, HCA Middle, is the one we're looking to develop. The third well is not sustainable from what I understand. So one of the thoughts is if we get HCA Middle running and the water quality is significantly high, we're looking at possibly a blending process with the current well that's at HCA as well.
So we got 2 of those blend?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And third question, wastewater treatment plant project with the recycling, which I perceive as our saving grace in the future. When does that start?
So we have to do the design for the project still. We haven't done the engineering and design. That needs to be completed. I have a meeting this week with Carollo to discuss how we can fund that. We may have to get a low interest loan to start that funding, because we're looking at about $1 million for engineering and plans just for the project.
Okay, so we need the loan just to get the engineering done.
Yes, sir. There was discussion before with possibly an internal loan from the general fund, but that's something that we would discuss with the new city manager upon arrival.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, a low interest loan right now, good timing.
Robert, you said you could do that. I had
You want a
one.
used excavator?
So the very first project you mentioned was the main line,
Yes, sir.
and that's gonna be dug in a trench, correct?
Yes, sir.
Bringing it out from being outside and actually burying it.
Yes, sir.
Can we get fiber or anything available to dump in that same trench? Because right now, that is one of our areas in Solvang that is really low on broadband, that I'm just kind of curious if we can work that out somehow. I know, the other one is, I know. I'm just putting it out there.
It's something that we can explore and see if it's possible.
Because same going up Atterdag, that was another spot that, you know, it could kind of feed that whole thing right into Friedensburg. But that whole end is the one of the bad spots in Solvang for broadband. And being that we're trying to do all that stuff, that could be a way to even help fund the project.
It's a great idea, and we'll discuss.
We'll know later after Mr. Becker.
Presentation on that.
Presentation.
One thing I do want to do with that Friedensburg Canyon is give notification to all the residents and possibly hold a meeting with them all so they can come in. We can reassure them that, you know, that we'll minimize the water interruptions during that project. There may be some ingress, egress concerns, but we're going to work to address all those issues as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much for that report. Thank you both. All right, moving on to public communications. Madam Clerk, would you just please read the little rules on it?
The council welcomes your input. At this time, you may address the council on items not on the agenda and on consent. Time limit is 3 minutes. We will start with in-person public comments first.
I had non-agenda item, Michael Miller was the first one.
I am Mike Miller. I'm going to read the first summary of the first 5 pages I submitted to the clerk, 08/05/22, the date and how it's referenced. Solvang clerk cover, Clark noted. Law enforcement contact issues. Police, lawyer, judges. Suspect, FBI concern, federal involvement. Local legal and industry black sheep, supervisor failure. Local media corruption, Chumash contact failure, abnormal group civilian activity. So that's just the first 5 of 25 pages, and the rest don't really get a whole lot better. On page 12, item number 4 is something that I'm interested in making public. I've had some difficulties with the clerks. This has some validity, and it's also a defamation video against me. The validity is a page showing interaction between 2 artists and 4 songs. Additional matter will be provided that gives substantial validity to music industry involvement in my situation over the last 9 years. This is in order to counteract delusional mental illness allegations and a low IQ. The failure for agending my resolution and further discussion related to these items recently happened at the clerk. One was when I first got here, I spoke in front of the council, the first time I ever did that, and met my first politician for the first time, Jim. And I later had a discussion at the planning board, and after my 3 minutes, the police were at the doorway, and he left, and he caught up with me as I was leaving town, and he offered me a ride out of town. And I found out from some officers that it was one of the council members. Perhaps they were mistaken that it was somebody from the board, but that was completely inappropriate. 2 would be the mayor. I had face-to-face contact with this person, and I remembered his name very well while in Santa Barbara. And now that he was a bailiff, he became the mayor from a different city, and now he's not running again because he can't get any. His rent is a problem, and there's some judges that are also retiring that he told me about that I'm going to have some allegations against. So I just have a concern about that. And of course, Clark's comments. I was trying to get the Brown Act summary or any information related to that, and he was saying that he was having issues with the voices in his head. And I'm not sure if I have time for much more else. Something related to the new city manager is more complex and sophisticated corruption, could include lawsuits, court proceedings, in conjunction with seemingly unrelated car accidents, part of my 25 pages. I also submitted to Councilmember Arona a summary of what I'm alleging is probable cause for why I could be nominated for a Nobel Prize when China mailed seeds to your Taiwan shipping company in 2020. My song is Taiwan Thunderstrike.
Thank you, Michael. Next, we have David Brown.
Thank you, Mayor Charlie and council. I just, more of a public announcement, if anything, that I know ballots are out, but I also want to inform the public that the citizens of Solvang that there is a candidate forum for the 3rd and 4th district coming up. It'll be this Wednesday, October 12th at 7 p.m. at Bethania Lutheran Parish Hall at 603 Atterdag Road in Solvang. I expect you'll see my smiling face and a few other people here. And I hope to encourage everybody to be part of the democratic process and ask your questions, meet your candidates, and vote accordingly. Thank you.
You stole my announcement. Thanks, David. All right, that was all I had for items for speaker's lips. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Denise?
Hello, my name is Denise Elamine of Solvang, California. I just want to say that the forum for the City Council is this Wednesday. But prior, on September 28th, there was a debate that was at the Veterans Hall for the school board. And I am running for school board this year. And this debate was given by one single person, and it was promoted by no name. And the city was okay with that. But I noticed with the city council, you have a church and you have names that are going to be moderating. So I'm just concerned that maybe the next time one single person comes and sponsors a debate for public office, that the city council would be more careful and when they promote things, that they get names and get official people who are going to do this, because it promotes hate, and I don't want to be a part of it. So I didn't attend because I didn't want to be a part of that. So I just wanted you guys to know that it feels different to me that the board was a debate and the city council is just a forum. But nobody seemed to notice that but me. So I just wanted to let the citizens of Solvang know that I noticed, and I hope you notice next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Next.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Arona. I'm a resident of Solvang, and I hope we will have some debate at the City Council Forum, and I am a candidate for City Council for District 4. Please come out, and I'm so happy that everyone is promoting that event, because you do need to meet your candidates, and hopefully you'll have a chance to ask some questions and promote some debate along with just meeting your candidates. The reason I wanted to address the council today is really to appeal to the city and the council to please put the water rate increase and the water rate usage penalties on the formal agenda for the next city council meeting. I think that's scheduled for October 24th. I am getting out and talking to many people. Many people are feeling the strain and the difficulty meeting these increased rates and the penalties associated with the conservation required. And I think the city has heard many businesses and residents also express or communicate these challenges. What I'd like to remind the council and the citizens is that we have a limited window of time to either review, challenge, void, or simply amend the rates that we have put forward. And that window of time means that the clock is ticking, and we need to really prioritize this item on the agenda, and I'd ask that the city consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on any items not on the agenda and or just on the consent agenda? Seeing none. Anyone out in Zoom? It looks like Mr. Padfield out there. Bringing it back, we'll move on to our city manager's report. Brad, do you have a new report? Gonna move on. We had no items, I don't think, right now for the advanced calendar. I think one of the items that, Elizabeth, that you did bring up, we are gonna be doing that, I think, at the next council meeting, if I'm not mistaken. That's already on there.
It's currently on the meeting of November 14th, Mr. Mayor.
November 14th. I don't have that in front of me, sorry.
Yeah,
So November 14th is when that'll be.
It's up to the council if you'd like to bring it forward before that time. Obviously, because of circumstances, the staff reports have been a little bit lighter on this meeting, and we hope to get back up to speed by the next meeting. But to the extent that the council would like to have a discussion regarding the water rates at the next meeting, we can certainly put that on there. It's just going to require a little bit more work from staff to get that ready, given the transition.
I was thinking that had already gone into play, but you're right. I would like that. I think it would be good to have it for the citizens, especially prior to the election.
Okay.
Because actually, if it's for what it's scheduled, it would be already after the voting.
Then I would suggest, if we're going to do that, Mr. Mayor, on the advanced calendar currently is the parking in lieu ordinance amendment first hearing. If we could push that off to the 14th and kind of swap them, I think the substantive discussion of the water rates is probably a higher priority for the council from what I'm hearing.
I think it is.
I would agree.
Everyone there, okay with that?
I am.
Robert, you're good? Yeah. All right. Let's do that.
Can we make the construction moratorium a part of that conversation?
We could certainly have a kind of a wide-ranging discussion as to methods for addressing the water shortage, so we can add that to the discussion. One of the issues is that we'll be taking direction from the council, so we can provide you options, but we won't necessarily have something ready to go, sort of shovel-ready at that point, because we don't know exactly what the direction of the council will be.
That's why we want to have the discussion, is so that we can ask the staff to come back with some recommendations that maybe in the next meeting we can make some decisions on.
Sure.
But we need to have the discussion.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me, may I ask a question? So we're not talking about resolutions on the 24th, we're talking about discussion, correct?
We're talking about discussion on the construction moratorium issue, and I use that term advisedly. There may be other options that the council wants to look at that are not tied specifically to construction, more tied to water usage or water connections and so on. So that's kind of the common phrase that we've been using to have that discussion, but it may be a more focused and targeted discussion that the council ultimately gives direction to staff.
Thank you.
All right, so, actually, I just want to make a quick comment, because I know Mayor Pro Tem Infante made a comment, and I heard Councilmember Thomas. For those forums that are going on, the city council has nothing to do with any of those. Those are all put on however they want to be put on. So the Chamber of Commerce typically has been putting on all of the candidate forums for items that are in the city of Solvang. And wherever they're able to get a location, that's where it goes. But as far as the other one for the school board, they rented the facility. It's a private person doing that. City of Solvang has nothing to do with any of those types of things, just so information for everyone there, okay?
Charlie, can I add to that as well?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. The original reach from this forum Wednesday night was originally put on by, quote, some concerned residents and some board members, without any specific names. And then I guess the League of Women Voters heard about it and they wanted to sponsor it. So that's why it turned out the way it did. So now the League of Women Voters is sponsoring the Wednesday night forum next week.
This isn't the chamber?
No. I believe it's, if Susan Williams is correct, it's the League of Women Voters.
Got it.
That is, I may be wrong.
Correct.
That is correct. Okay, so it is League of Women Voters after the fact, found out about it, and they agreed to sponsor it, because you need somebody to sponsor something like that, I think.
Right.
But you know what? And if two neighbors wanted to put on a forum and they wanted the candidates to come in, I'm like, all right, I'll come. I don't care who sponsors it. If people want to get together and hear what voters have to say and what candidates have to say, I don't care who puts it on. But we do have a sponsor now, League of Women Voters.
There we go. All right, so I had that wrong. Jack, as the director or president of the Chamber of Commerce. Past president, sorry. Got it. Former president, ex officio.
Jack Williams, I'm speaking as a citizen and for my wife who couldn't be here tonight. Just to make a correction, the sponsor for the forum is We Watch.
Oh, you're right, yes.
And the League of Women Voters is running it.
It's charged of the format.
Right, and my wife and others are working with them and put it together to make it happen.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I always open up a can of worms, it seems. Sorry. But I did want to make that as transparent as possible. All right, next, moving on to item number 3, any council comments or requests? Go ahead.
One quick comment. Well, maybe not that quick. He keeps laughing at me. There's a prescribed burn this week. The Air Pollution Control District is going to have a prescribed burn of approximately 1,600 acres of sage, scrub, and oak woodland. It's going to happen October 10th to 14th, depending on the conditions. The burn is going to occur over 4 to 5 days. Expected to occur on consecutive days, has a potential to last into the evening hours until as late as 9 p.m. This is going to happen between Midland School and 4335 Timms Road near Los Olivos. So if you start smelling smoke, please be aware that this is intentional. It's a vegetation management broadcast burn to achieve strategic wildfire fuel reduction in an effort to reduce the risk of wildfire for the residential communities of Woodstock Ranch, Oak Trail Estates, and Midland School. That's it.
That's it. Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, I do have a request, and maybe we want to wait to talk about this until after the election, and, you know, we've handled other present matters, but I would like to review what the ordinances on short-term rentals look like. I have questions about some short-term rentals that may or may not be in the area that are allowed, which are in the commercial tourist-related area. And also, I'm concerned that it's contributing to the housing shortage in our area. Obviously, you know, people want to be able to have residual income in their properties, but we also want to give the opportunity to residents to live and work in the same place. And right now, that is very, very challenging. So that's something that I would like us to review.
Maybe a couple weeks away, or the first one in November.
I think Councilmember Arona said maybe after the election.
After the
If
election.
that's the council's direction, we can certainly put that on the longer side of the advanced calendar.
For the election.
I mean, it doesn't matter as long as we can address it. Yeah, obviously, you know, water conservation and everything else that we have to deal with is pressing, but housing is also very pressing, so.
Yes, yes, it is. All right, thank you. So just, Dave took my thunder, like I said, on that candidate forum coming up on Wednesday, the 12th. I know that there's an open house this Friday. Chamber is doing a ribbon cutting at 4 p.m. And I lost my paper. Tracy, can you just state the business again?
On Friday?
On Friday.
Friday is the new,
Put you on the spot.
yeah, put me on the spot. It is Harlan's Business for
Right.
the new cottages, right next to Paula's Pancake.
Right next to Paula's Pancake. Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's at 4 p.m. this coming Friday. Try to be out there to support the businesses, local businesses. The business owners do really appreciate that. Coming up, I had, there was a number of new first-time people that are part of the food bank. So on September 20th, they had 176 households, 692 individuals, 31 new. And on September 27th, 194 households, 752 individuals, 39 brand new on that particular one. So that was just last week. And then I just received a thank you from the St. Ines Valley Therapeutic Writing Program for the Chamber for the donation. So I have no comment. Go ahead.
I just want to do a big shout out to everybody because this is like fundraiser month, it seems. Every weekend, you've got to pick which fundraiser you choose to go to. We've had Veggie Rescue, Cars and Cowboys, Boots and Bling, cystic fibrosis last week, the DARE tournament this Sunday. It's really encouraging to see, and this is what I always focus on, is that it's the residents that help each other, not the taxes and not the taxpayers, that we all get together, we do really great things for great, great causes, and I'm honored to participate in them. And it seems really, really busy right now with this stuff right now. But it's really fun to see. And I am looking forward to the city council and the city not being in the news for the next few years.
Thank you, Robert. All right, moving on to item number 4, consent agenda items. Is there anyone wishing to remove any items from the agenda?
I'll move that we,
Yeah, I need to have public comment out there for that right now. Is there anyone wishing to comment on the consent agenda in-house? Seeing none, we'll bring it back. Zoom, don't see anybody there, so we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Infante,
Yes.
Councilmember Arona.
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas,
Yes.
Mayor Urick,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to item, we don't have any public hearings, so moving on to regular business items. Item number 5, Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Adopt resolution number 221195, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Solvang, California, approving an employment agreement with Bradley Vidro to serve as interim city manager. And adopt resolution number 221196, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Solvang, California, authorizing signatures to city bank accounts with Montecito Bank and Trust.
We don't really have do we have a staff report on this?
I can give a brief staff
Okay.
report, Mr. Mayor. As
Thank
you're
you.
aware, the city manager resigned at the end of September. There's currently a vacancy in the position. I was acting from financial capacity since last week at the closed session and the open session to make sure that city business kept running. But ultimately, city council does need to appoint an interim city manager to keep that going. So I signed a few checks, signed a permit or two here, nothing major.
A fine job, David.
But Brad Vidro, who previously served as the city's city manager, who retired in the end of 2018, has agreed to serve as interim city manager. The agreement that is in your staff report is very similar to the interim city manager agreement that Rick Hayden signed when he was serving as interim following Brad's retirement. I did talk with Brad about the form of the agreement. He's fine with it, and therefore it's before you. Just so that you're aware and so the members of the public can understand, there are some rules that we have to follow in approving executive level contracts like this. We have to give a brief summary of what the terms of them are. So I'm not doing that to be boring. It's required by the government code. So because Mr. Vidro is a PERS retiree, he is limited in the number of hours that he's allowed to serve. I've written into the contract that 950 hours would be the maximum that he would be able to serve during the fiscal year. That is set by PERS. If he goes over that, he would be in danger of having to be unretired and have to repay his retirement, and I'm sure he doesn't want that. The other provision of hiring what they call a retired annuitant like Mr. Vidro is that they can receive no more than the equivalent hourly rate for the salary that is published for the position. The City of Solvang has published its city manager's salary at $84.13 per hour. That is the amount that is in the contract, and that does not include any benefits such as health insurance and the other things that are typically given to the city manager in the city. So those are the major provisions of the contract. The contract, as any executive level, is the city manager will serve at the will of the city council, and that's pretty much what I have as far as that agreement. What we did discover in the last week is that Montecito Bank and Trust needs to have very specific signatory authority for the bank accounts. So there's a separate resolution that will be forwarded to Montecito Bank and Trust showing who the exact signers are for the city's accounts. We do have a check signing policy, and it turns out that I am not on it as city attorney. So they want the city manager and council member, specifically the mayor and the mayor pro tem, to be on there. So that's why you have that resolution in your packet. So the recommendation is to go ahead and review the employment agreement with Brad Vidro, adopt the resolution 22-1195 approving that agreement, and also adopt resolution 22-1196 authorizing Brad Vidro, Charlie Urig, and Mark Infanti to be added as signatory to the city's bank accounts with Montecito Bank and Trust. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of the staff report?
Did they ask for the signature card to be done in pencil?
No, absolutely not. It was in invisible ink.
How do you know when you're out of invisible ink? Thank you.
The beauty, that's transparent. Any other questions?
Do we get to harass Brad now?
Not yet. Okay, we haven't voted. The public might.
Yeah.
So.
Just wondering how the hours are tracked. If he can serve for 950 hours, how does that get tracked? Is he put on timeout if he runs over his 950 hours the first couple of months?
There's kind of two tracking methods for it. First and foremost, he's going to track it, because if he goes over, CalPERS will know, because the hours are reported to CalPERS, and they would flag it. And I suspect if he is well advised from a financial standpoint, he is not going to want to be unretired and have to repay the contributions to PERS. So the other way is to just through the city's normal payroll. He'll be submitting timesheets as any other city employee would, be tracked through that mechanism, because that's how he would get paid. And so we'll keep an eye on it from both sides of it.
All right, thank you.
And having an attorney keep a track of billable hours makes me nervous.
It'll be our finance team.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other questions, comments on this? Take it out to public comment, and I did have one speaker slip. Hands. Hans Deuce. Woo-hoo. Oh. And Mary Ellen.
I'm bringing a mom with me.
Are you?
And Carla.
For or against?
Huh?
Are you for or against?
Well, I haven't made up my mind yet.
Thank you.
I might not stay. When you get there.
Oh, Harleen, that's cool.
Well, I think, this is kind of a no-brainer. We've needed someone with that loves solving. And there's a lot of people back here, back a couple rows, that love solving. But there's one guy there in the black shirt, kind of over here in the corner. And I don't think he's going to pad hours. But you'll probably find him doing stuff, a lot of stuff, off the clock. That's his style, because he loves his city.
We have code enforcement for that.
So, anyway, Brad, I'd like to kind of jump the gun and say welcome aboard, or back, or whatever. Couple questions though. Are you bringing the sandbox in?
I still have it.
You still have it?
Bring it in.
Okay. I've got I've got a box of red bananas. I expect you to bring your candy jar in also.
Yeah, I guess I'll bring that.
You're probably going to be having some company. So I'll just leave this right up here for you. Take care.
Get it tomorrow.
Yeah, Brad's candy. So anyway, that's really all what I had to say. It's Mary Ellen.
No, you did it well.
I did it good.
I really am glad to see him come back. I'm tired of seeing him retired.
Or you just want to come down and harass them?
No, I don't plan on being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hans. All right. I don't have any other speaker slips. Is there anyone else in the audience at the time wishing to speak or make any comments on item number 5?
evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Dennis Beebe from Solvang. I only have one comment regarding your current interim city manager, who stated earlier in his summary that he signed multiple checks during his 1 week as interim city manager, but that he's not authorized to sign them, and Montecito Bank probably is going to bounce him.
And they made it clear that I did not have the signatory authority, so there was nothing that went through, so that's, yeah. So, yeah.
Just call us Stockton, all right?
So what happened was, and there were no checks to sign. I have not actually physically signed any checks. What happened was Montecito Bank let us know that there was a very specific signing authority. I filled out all the paperwork. They were ready to go, and there were just no checks that came through during that period of time. So I wanted to exercise that authority to make sure things were going to keep going, but it never actually came to pass that I had to do it. So
The city checks bounced.
they did not bounce. No. The money is there. The money is absolutely there. That's not
No checks were written.
But the mayor and I had quite a few conversations about how to deal with the bank, and so need not worry that anything was a problem during those few days.
Yeah, we'll be dealing with it tomorrow.
Yep.
Again. All right. No comments out, any in Zoom that are out there right now? Wishing to make any comments on item number 5?
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
This is John Padfield. I couldn't figure how to raise my hand. I just want to say that I'm very excited about the pending hiring of Brad Vidro, and I feel this is just nothing but a plus for the city.
Excellent. Thank you very much for those comments. I think you would just have to tip your hat there, John, on the Cheshire Cat. All right, bringing it back for final comments. Any comments?
Charlie, I wasn't gonna say anything, but as my friends know, I don't shut up too easily.
Uh-oh.
And I'm very-
You have 3 minutes, Diane. 3 minutes, Diana.
Okay. Diana Richardson, City of Solvang retiree. I have lived in Solvang my whole life, and I am very happy to see Brad coming back to the city. Because as you know, some of us retirees haven't been too happy lately, but we're glad to have Brad back. And I hope that every department will take advantage of Brad's knowledge of the city. We didn't do it the first time when he left, and let's do it now and take advantage of all his knowledge, because he knows a lot. And he's out in the community learning about the town and what's going on, and I hope that continues. Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll definitely take advantage of Brad.
We pledge. We pledge to take advantage. All right. We better hurry up before he decides not to do that.
Knock yourself out of the job.
Is there a motion on the floor to accept items
I'll move
5A and 5B?
that we
I
approve
guess?
interim city manager employment agreement with Bradley Vidro and adopt resolution 22-1195 and 22-1196 approving the agreement signatories for the bank accounts.
Go ahead, no.
Seconded.
There you go. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Infante.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Rona.
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yes.
Mayor Hurick.
Just for fun.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Welcome aboard, Brad.
Aren't we going to make him come up and speak now?
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, yeah, I think we have to, too.
Brad, would you like to say something now, or you don't have?
I'm ready to hit the ground running tomorrow.
There you go. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thanks, Brad.
I wanted to, if I could, just get back to, I've totally forgotten my comments. I wanted to bring up our new police chief that we actually have here in Solvang, who happens to also be a Solvang resident. And Mark, come on up. This is one of our newest lieutenants at the Sheriff's Department. He started out in patrol. He was a detective for many, many years, sergeant, and now our chief of police. So Mark, welcome aboard.
Good evening, everybody. So briefly, you don't have a 3-minute timer on me, do you?
No, you got a 30-second one. You're
Like
30
an oral
seconds.
board, correct? I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 27 years now. Prior to that, I was 5 years in the Marine Corps, but I am Valley born and raised, and I now live in Solvang in the area. So the Sheriff's Department decided it would probably be in the best interest they've recently moved people around. And if I understand correctly, I think we've had 6 lieutenants in 5 years, and that's a lot. So I plan on being here for a while, as long as they don't move me. We are hiring. We have a staffing issue, as you know. But one of the advantages we're going to have by having me here is the fact that I am a resident, and I do love Solvang. So now I'm responsible for the crime rate and the crime and the effect that it's having on our community. So I have a very open door policy, except our station is being reconstructed, so we don't have an open door.
We don't have an open door yet.
We're working on it though as best we can. We're trying to get all the bugs out. Sheriff Thomas actually pinned me in 1995. I don't mean to throw you down for age, but it's quite a while ago, but thank you. And
That was 5 years into the term.
So really, I'd like to open it up, actually, if anybody has any questions or concerns with law enforcement or law enforcement activity or the crime or crime rate or things that I can answer, address right now. We can discuss fentanyl, burglaries, catalytic converters. The majority of my career is spent in operations. So, and that is extreme operations that the Sheriff's Department had to offer at the time. So that's put me in a unique position that I'm very in tune with what's going on in the street. However, be patient as I get my feet underneath me as a manager and your chief of police. So are there any questions from either Zoom or the open forum? Any concerns that I need to be made aware of now?
Mark, would you list your phone number at the office and
Yes.
or your email that you want to be looking at?
Right, I'll get all that. I was waiting on a city manager, so.
Yes, that's Brad Z.
I already know. So if anybody doesn't have any questions or anybody doesn't have any concerns, I'm gonna be here, so let's do this together. It's a community
We'd like to
effort.
see a lot of you.
You will. That is one of the things I think
It is.
I've considered it a strength, that I have an extreme dedication to law enforcement, and it's also a weakness because I'm never home, I'm always working. It's one of those things that you have a responsibility to do when we take this oath, and I've taken it very serious and defended both my country and my community, served my community my entire adult life. So I'm looking forward to this next phase of my career, and I hope that I won't, well, I'm actually gonna let you know I won't age now.
Very nice to have you here.
Yeah, it's really nice to have you, Mark.
And thank you for your service, and God bless you, Mark. Thank you.
Now moving on to regular item number 6. Madam Clerk, just read the title of that.
Receive broadband update report from SB CAG staff.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Mike Becker. I'm the Director of Planning at Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, or SB-CAG. I hope I can keep this as fun as the rest of the meeting has been to this point. It's quite an enjoyable meeting to have been to. And yes, PowerPoint. That way I don't have to see myself up there. So SB-CAG is typically 90% of the work we do is related to transportation. We do have a small role in housing. And late last year, at the impetus of the County of Santa Barbara, our board got us into the broadband business. And I know our executive director and Bill Simmons and Maria Kelly made the circuit and got everybody, all the 8 cities in the county to agree to work together for a broadband strategic plan for the region. And really what it does is with COVID stimulus and also just the state and federal government's prioritization of broadband, and they're putting a lot of money behind it. As we go through this process, it really prepares the region to capitalize on that funding, and hopefully, actually, Maria and I were whispering about the same thing that you said, that they're cutting open a lot of roads that can you drop some conduit or fiber into them while they're open? And maybe in a year, that'll be, the standard of we're cutting open a road, does it make sense to put some conduit down here? So we went through this process with all eight cities plus the county, and we are very close to the finish line. I'm just here to introduce it. Maria Kelly's going to give a bulk of the technical speak. Again, most of my work is related to transportation. But we can go one more slide. And this just shows essentially what Maria is going to be talking about here in a minute. But we're pretty far along, and if you can go one more, and that'll be my last slide. When we got into this, because the funding was there from the state and federal governments, we wanted to get this done quick. And in the planning world, nothing really goes that quick. So, this was put on a very aggressive schedule, essentially 9 months to do the bulk of the work. And I watched those green boxes that you see just keep marching to the right, and that's a good sign. We're almost done. We have a draft broadband strategy for the region. We just, this morning we discussed it we have an ad hoc committee of our SBCAG's board that kind of guides us along through the process, and we will bring the final plan for adoption to the SBCAG board in December. But in the meantime, we're making the rounds and doing a brief presentation to every city council and to the board of supervisors on how the project turned out. You just happen to be first, so you get the unpolished version. And I did want to say one last thing before I turn it over to Maria is this was really tricky for me to get into because normally I work on transportation projects and there's kind of an order, a way that things go from an idea or some kind of need that is presented somehow through data or community input. It goes through a study, a planning process, environmental engineering, gets built. Broadband, I had no clue. I'm like, okay, I'm good at helping develop plans, but what happens when it's over? And so SBCAG and the County of Santa Barbara jointly applied to the California Public Utilities Commission for some funding of almost $1 million to kind of memorialize this or to create a division within SBCAG that will carry the torch forward once the planning effort's over. And we understand it hasn't been approved yet, but it looks very likely that the county and SBCAG will be awarded that funding, and there will be a team that will stand up after this project's over to start asking Roger to ensure that conduit's getting put into the road and to start helping to build out the broadband network within the city of Solvang and throughout Santa Barbara County. And with that, I want to turn it over to Maria, and she's going to go through the details of the project.
Thanks for having us back. And the last time I was here, we talked a lot about legislation and funding and why we were doing this. And again, this project was done with the lens of Broadband for All, which lines with the state of California in the Infrastructure and Jobs Act at the federal level, all which is important when we're looking at funding in the future. So next slide, please. So project highlights, and this is really it's about a 106-page document currently, and so we're really narrowing this down, providing some highlights. Right off the bat, the document is not in its final form. We still have to name the tables, add the appendices, and make it look pretty. It needs to look good so that people want to read it. We don't want to lose all this great work. So, but project highlights, again, like I said, reiterated, aligning with state and federal efforts. Really important that it's open access. We created an open access GIS tool map development. That's been developed. We can now look as a region, we can see where some gaps are, where we need more data to help us plan and prioritize. So we're set there. We captured community status, and I want to talk a little bit more about that with Solvang because there is some more data that would be really helpful for us here that's easy to collect and can be ongoing for the next 6-7 months. Everybody wants reliable and affordable internet. When we looked through and sorted through all the information in the community forums and the needs assessment, that is really what it comes down to is reliability, which lines up really well when you're looking at safety and resiliency and reliability, it all ties in together. So people want that, residents and businesses. Solvang is really well aligned to be a good partner. There's some key policy considerations that you're going to want to consider, and we can touch on that briefly, and your staff can walk you through that in 2023. It sounds like you have a lot of other priorities as well, so it's going to be really great to have SBCAG as a partner in this. So all of it's going very well, and Solvang's really well poised. Next slide, please. And this is what I want to talk about. We did not have great response from the speed testing. We need more data. And the report lays this out more clearly. The underlying map where you see the green and yellow, and it says CPU fixed consumer served areas, CPUC considers served a 25 speed download and a 3 upload. California Broadband for All is 100 symmetrical. Infrastructure Jobs Act defines a USDA Reconnect grant. They want to see 100 download, 20 upload. And you can see, so we took the speed test data and overlaid it. We're not anywhere near those speeds in Solvang right now. We need more data, though, as we're looking for funding, and we want to make sure that we can make the case that Solvang should be a great place for investments, whether it's through public-private partnerships or however this evolves. We need to have more speed testing within the city of Solvang. It's very simple to do, and I'll make sure that I communicate with you after and make people have the link to that website so we can keep collecting that data. It's still live on SBCAG's website, so we would like more speed test data. But we still got a good idea, and we could see around it, and we can sort of get a pretty good sense, but we would like some more information there. Next slide, please. So recommended local actions. The document organized everything on a way to organize locally, again, identifying access, affordability and adoption, and a redundancy and resiliency. Those were the lenses that we used when we were looking through the data and we were talking and doing the interviews with city staff. And ways to consider to organize for your review, consideration, potential adoption. We need to develop a full inventory of assets that could be utilized for conduit. And with the work coming forward, there's some ways that we can help support make that happen and identify what we want to know, what could be used for infrastructure deployment for conduit and or fiber. That's going to be helpful. Not really anybody in the county really has that because it hasn't been front of mind, but it is something that really helps to make sure that when these opportunities come around and the private sector comes back, we have that available. A dig once policy, we'll be presenting the city with that. We'll have an example of what that looks like. It could be open trench or dig once, but these are policy considerations that you're going to want to be considering as you're moving forward. And again, most of the communities, we're seeing the similar type of thing. Almost most importantly, out of this organizing piece is prioritizing broadband planning. When you start making your planning priorities, you just need to identify that yes, broadband is a priority, we're committed to it, we want to make sure that it happens. And it's really important that when you're doing your applications or you're identifying your work product, that broadband is a priority. So I won't read through all of them, but again, applying for grant funding, that should probably happen within the next 3 to 4 months if for any type of capacity building, supporting SBCAG works, whatever that partnership is. And again, access. We recommend that you really do work with SBCAG and have SBCAG help coordinate this work. Capacity is an issue among most of the cities within the Santa Barbara region, and really continuing to work collectively is really important. And when you're doing that, then you can look at sort of, exploring community Wi-Fi options, engaging telecom, but you need the capacity to do that. It requires staff, it requires a commitment to figure out how to get the infrastructure in here. Affordability and adoption. While this project was under development, we realized that the people piece is such a significant piece. All of this work is being done to close the digital divide. That means building infrastructure, but it also means providing training and the right equipment for people to connect to the internet. While I would say in the last 4 or 5 months, Dr. Simmons and I did meet with the Santa Barbara Foundation multiple times earlier this year, and they've agreed to be the hub of the Digital Equity Coalition, and we are currently working on really establishing that and identifying key partners and making sure that we really can address while we're waiting for the infrastructure, we're proactively looking at closing that digital divide with training, access, affordability programs. Almost every community that we went into, and Solvang included, there's a lack of awareness on what affordability programs are available. The Affordability Connect program, which is a federal program, so we're going to be, the Santa Barbara Foundation is going to help and really coalesce, catalyze the resources within each community and making sure that we're addressing these issues. We're not waiting for the infrastructure. We're going to go ahead and jump in right now and take care of some of these things. So really the city can work as a partner in supporting that coalition. It doesn't necessarily mean a financial contribution, but recognizing it and understanding it as the work continues. The chambers can be a part of that. Social services are a part of that, and all your community-based organizations that are already meeting the needs. I heard you speak about your food bank, and when I hear the new numbers, those are people that need affordable connectivity programming too. So there's definitely work we can do here with the coalition. And again, redundancy and resiliency planning. What are we talking about? How are we going to ensure that the city of Solvang stays connected? Where are our access points? And how is that going to all get decided and designed? There's a lot of work. Again, SBCAG is going to be really helpful with this. But it's going to be important for the city at some point to really engage with the major providers that are local, find out what their plans are. What are their plans to accelerate broadband deployment? And is it fiber? And is it going to meet the needs and future demands of your businesses and your residences and telehealth and all these things that we're seeing really putting a strain on the current infrastructure? And again, that last box is prioritizing infrastructure to planning and policy, and that's you. That's you helping. That's the role of the elected officials, and this is really helping the staff identify those priorities and encouraging the staff to implement. It really is a team. It's a team effort, and we'll see this at the local and regional level. Next slide, please. I won't go through all of this, but I'm put everything is in charts so that when you look at the local, we look at the regional as well. The green is what's already in play. On that organizing side, like you heard, CPUC staff has recommended approval of that LATA funding. That is significant. There's other counties. We just received notice today. The CPUC released their first round of counties that have asked for funding. So anything that was under 500,000 went through staff review, and everything over 500,000 is going through commission review. So these are just a few of the steps when we're considering regional actions, and more will come from that in the next later this year, early next year. Next slide, please. This was a really tough slide to do, because it's sort of looking at a little bit of a crystal ball. We can see what we're wrapping up in 2022. I just provided some high-level considerations of what next year might look like. It depends on whether you do decide that you want to apply for funding. It really does depend on where it falls in a priority, whether it's going to happen in 2023 or early 2024. With a lot of the funding that the state is investing potentially in middle mile, they have to commit and expend and basically build their middle mile infrastructure by 2026. I don't believe that is how short the timeline is for some of these last mile projects that we'll be looking at throughout the unincorporated and incorporated areas of the county. But again, it's a lot of it just depends on what your actions and steps are. Next slide, please. That's it. If I'm happy to answer any questions. It's a lot of information.
Are there any questions of the report? Go ahead, Mark.
I'm looking at your draft report.
The big one?
Yeah, the big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
It gave me a headache.
And you know what you're doing. I don't.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at, for instance, this is the Santa Barbara Broadband Strategy, and it lists the North County Ring and the South Coast Ring and the Buellton Connector, and who's going to be in charge of all of this?
That's a great question, and we will break it out, so hopefully that's more clear. For that middle mile conversation, that Golden State Connect network, that's the state. For some of these other little spurs and some of these things we're talking about, and Bill may be able to speak to it more, that fiber ring, that fiber network really was really what was at the root of this entire conversation. It was work of the Econ Alliance and the Chumash, developing that conceptual that concept and actually writing a grant around it in 2021. So everything that really was the basis of saying, hey, we do have all these gaps. And while we were looking at those gaps during this project process, then we saw the middle mile come from the state. So we've been getting new information the entire time we've been doing this. That map still is what we know as of today, but we do see some additional middle mile gaps, meaning those longer runs that connect communities that may still be gaps. We're not aware if there's fiber there. We haven't met with telecom. We haven't met with a telecom yet that has said, yes, there's fiber there, or we want to put fiber there. So those are areas that we're going to want to look at moving forward, but they're mostly in the unincorporated areas. So that's going to fall on the county and SBCAG to take a look at that. And your focus really will be on that last mile within your city infrastructure.
Well, if I recall correctly, Sam Cohen had mentioned in one of the meetings that I attended that they have put in fiber from the casino to the two hotels that the Chumash
Yes.
have here in the city. So there is some fiber here that we're aware of, and they're willing to, I don't know if they're willing to share it, I shouldn't say that, but they have acknowledged that it exists. So, what are we supposed to do?
That's a great question. So in our conversations, and this is where you start to do the dance, right? You know what the baseline is. We've also had conversations with Sam Cohen and Econ Alliance and the tribe. It's very possible that we'll find out, there's going to be some gaps where we just need some more data, where there may be, I mentioned community Wi-Fi. It could be that it's just a community Wi-Fi. Maybe we're not running fiber to the home. You're not doing that provider work. What was shared with us from the tribe was that with the new infrastructure that they are installing, Solvang's going to benefit nicely from some of the Wi-Fi. That being said, one of the key partners that you are going to want to be in conversations with is the fiber. How far can the fiber run? Is it worth pulling it further? Because there are also some restrictions on, depending on the funding they receive to build it, there's limits to where it can be installed. And I don't want to dive into that too much more, but between the telecom and the tribe and SBCAG, and I'm hoping that the tribe becomes part of that JPA as well. There's a lot of really great conversations and opportunities and what your first step is going to come. I wish I could tell you, but I can't. I can just give you the baseline and the data.
Okay.
Yeah, happy to try to answer more of it.
Appreciate it.
Would you share the link or however you want Solvang residents to be able to have the to do the speed testing for us?
Yeah, it's still on the SBCAG website. If you go to the SBCAG broadband website, the speed testing link is still live on their website. So that's the best place to access
Okay.
it. And
So for residents, it's sbcag.org.
Yep, /broadband.
You don't even have to go there, it's on the main page.
Oh, it's on the main page now.
Main page
Fantastic.
will get you
That's
there.
easy.
So I just wanted to make sure. And how many more residents? Because I'm looking at that map that you showed up there. There's quite a few down on Fjord. So, new chief, you need to do a test down there for us.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like we got any out on the ranch at all.
Mm-mm.
So we really need to push. Anybody have contacts out at the ranch to get some tests? Oh, Elizabeth, I'm sorry, you're out there.
Yeah, and they need it. We need it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and there wasn't a single test that, no one tested for speed out there at all. Anything south of the bridge.
And ideally, it's with a computer or a laptop. People have been using cellular devices, but then that gives us the data through your cell phone, and we are looking at we want to
Right.
know your internet speeds.
So, yes, so thank you for clarifying that, because there's a lot of areas in looking here that down in Fjord, the whole mobile home park. And I know we do have a dead spot here, which is right by our hospital as well. So it would be great if we could get something going down in the Alamo Pintado 246 heading out to Los Olivos. That's a huge corridor that's really a dead spot, and it happens with our sheriff radios as well. I think that's all just on microwave.
That's all the
or Wi-Fi.
redundancy and resiliency conversations. It really is, the future is fiber, the future is that connectivity. So
Yeah.
whatever steps we can take it's going to be important.
I noticed on one of your blocks that you had a new hire by SBCAG. That wouldn't happen to be someone that might be the point person for every city in the county to actually be the one that
Wouldn't that be amazing?
it would be great. I mean, it makes no sense for all of us to have our own separate little things. It makes more sense, and to make it more expedient for everyone, to have one person that everybody can contact, at least as far as permitting and all that other type of stuff. We need to get on board with that.
That is the recommendation. We hope that all the cities support that, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I did hear you'd be looking for a job shortly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, it's all, I think a lot of it to be determined. We got into this, it's outside of our typical wheelhouse.
Right.
But this is one project that has been very exciting to a lot of people. And I truly believe that good things will come of it. And assuming we get the CPUC funding, we have the funds we need to stand something up within SBCAG. And it absolutely makes sense, especially for the smaller cities, that you lean more heavily on SBCAG, whereas the two big cities or the county may be more, they take the lead and we support, but yeah, it's all still to be determined. And part of the funding is to organize a JPA around broadband, of how we organize and how we do that work. And those are all going to be questions that will be asked in the future.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the update. We'll look forward to seeing it at SBCAG on the
Yes.
20th.
The final plan will come back for the December meeting.
December.
Yes.
Maybe you. I may not be there. By the way. Yeah. All right, are there any questions, more questions from staff here? Just taking it out to public comment. Is there anyone out in the public wishing to comment on this particular item at this time? Wendy?
You might be able to put the,
Please come to the podium. State your name for the record, please.
Wendy Berry, and you might be able to put the broadband survey on the website, on the city's website. That way people can just click to link it to SBCAG.
Thank you. I thought that was done already. We haven't done that? Oh. All right, just one more thing to add to that. Brad? See you at 6:00 a.m. tomorrow. I know.
He didn't bring a pen.
All right. Any final comments? I don't have any speaker slips here. No, I don't see anybody else. Dennis?
Just one, Mr. Mayor. What's Brad's new email address?
I'm not sure, but I have a feeling it's going to be what his old one was, which would be bradv@cityofsolvang.com. Brad V as in Victor. Not Vidro, it's Vidro. All right. Any last items?
No.
That was just to do we have a item number 7? Any AB 1, 2, 3, 4 reports?
I was at Saturday evening, I went to the Mayor's Gala. And it was interesting. The guy that introduced the mayors said we have 4.5 mayors. I was the half, because I'm not officially the mayor yet. But it was an interesting dinner and a fundraiser for United Way. Cal Portland, who had sponsored the table, paid for my dinner, so I didn't have to put it on the city expense account.
Nice.
But it was a good event. Got to hear from a lot of people. Made a lot of contacts. It worked out very well. But I needed to report that I had gone to that.
It makes it a gratuity, you know.
Did they make you hula dance?
No.
They made me hula dance when I went.
Oh well. My hair wasn't green.
Neither was mine.
There's a picture online with you with a lampshade on your head.
All right.
This was a gambling, it was a casino night.
Oh, those are fun.
So they had all the casino tables and everything out, everybody was shooting craps and doing,
That's fun.
it was, yeah, it was fun. It was, yes.
I know they're hoping to do more activities here in Solvang, and I think they need to do something related to the school and a reading program.
They are. There's an interesting program that should be coming here to Solvang for the kids that the United Way is bringing in. It's a literacy program that's very interesting. Don't have all the details of it, but it will be coming in based on what they get fundraisers.
Excellent. It's a work in progress. All right. Any final?
I don't have a readout, but I this wasn't commented on, and I'm really pleased, and it's fun to see this. There's an email from Arlene, who was our planning director back when I was chairman of the planning commission, that she sent to Hans congratulating the city on bringing Brad back, and I've always had a lot of respect for Arlene, so it's pretty cool to see that she's paying attention, and people are happy everywhere.
Yeah. And a number of former employees still here.
Yeah.
Wendy, Mary Ellen,
And I'm really stoked that
Joni,
Barbara's the chief of police. Thank you.
Diana, Brad being a former employee. I know you've got a smile. All right. With that, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:13. Thank you all for being here. Oh, yeah.